Looking to enhance the appeal and performance of your gym with state-of-the-art equipment? Look no further than the Gym Administrator. Founded by Sal Corrente, professional wrestling manager, promoter, and author of the great book Bruno Sammartino, the autobiography of wrestling's living legend, available on Amazon.com, the Gym Administrator will spot you on that final rep and assist you every step of the way from purchase through installation. Whether it be strength training, cardiovascular training, or performance enhancement, the Gym Administrator works with a wide array of leading vendors and suppliers carefully selected to meet the diverse needs of your clientele. Service the way you remember it. Contact us at 914-494-1066 or visit our website at thegymadministrator.com, as well as all social media platforms. The Gym Administrator. All your fitness needs under one roof. Scan the barcode at the bottom of the screen to get started today.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's number one pro wrestler broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh. Jimmy, we're back again.
Yo, what up?
Dude,
What's going
I
on,
was
man?
just a couple of things I was just thinking about. I think tomorrow morning I got to listen to some Wisteria Hall. I miss those songs. Like, you know what I mean? I just like,
Okay.
dude, I got to tell you, this life, it's a classic.
What, that national anthem the other weekend inspired you to listen to something that sounds good?
Well, I just, after watching the tribute video from a year ago, it was on, and I decided to put the sound on the computer while the show was running off, and I'm like, man, that is such a badass show. And then I was thinking to myself, here we are both wearing tank tops, and I miss you being in studio because used to either bitch it was too hot or bitch it was too cold. It was always a good time.
Yeah.
Do you bitch to yourself in the saloon?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because it's hot as fuck in here, bro. There's never anything right. I mean, anything I try to do, it's just not good enough. You know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. All right.
Yeah, I wonder how we got that way. All right, it must have been Elwood.
All right, so tonight's subject is the greatest pro wrestling heels. But before we get to that, Jimmy, got a news item we'd like to cover. Jennifer Aniston hits back at the vice president-elect.
Jesus.
JD Vance's a viral childless cat ladies comment.
What?
Jennifer Aniston is hitting back at the comments about the politicians who are calling childless cat ladies made by Republican presidential candidate Senator JD Vance, which has gone viral. In the morning show, Star 55 on Wednesday took her to her Instagram stories and posted a screenshot of the social media post in which Ron Foblowski, editor-in-chief of Media Touch Network, shared a 2021 Tucker Carlson interview clip with Vance. JD Vance says, women who haven't given birth, like Kamala Harris, are childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and have no direct stake in America. Filipowski wrote alongside the 28-second clip, I truly can't believe this is coming from a potential vice president of the United States, Aniston wrote. All I can say is, Mr. Vance, I pray for your daughter is fortunate enough to bear children of her own one day. I hope she will not need to turn to IVF as a second option because you are trying to take that away from her, too. Jimmy, that's some deep shit going on. Thoughts?
First of all, I will say only one thing to Vice President, JD Vance, if he's fortunate enough to become Vice President. Leave the cats out of this. Cats do not deserve to be mentioned in the same sentence as Kamala Harris. First of all, let me get that out of the way. All right,
Wow.
because the cats can't speak English, but if they had freedom of speech, they say leave us the fuck out of Kamala Harris jokes because we're insulted.
Cat power.
Yeah, cat power. Cat power.
Cat power.
Oh my God. Can I ask you something? Not just
Wait, but I got to comment on your comment though.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the possible vice president-elect makes a comment about women who don't give birth being basically useless, right? And Jimmy Farrow's comments, he's angry that he's dragging cats into the conversation. Everything else is okay with these comments except the fact that he mentions cats. And that in itself is a problem. It is a problem.
Yeah, well, if you look deeper, you'll realize, just like those parables in the New Testament, that what I say on the surface runs much deeper. So if I'm offended for cats over even the subject of Kamala Harris, you can only imagine to what magnitude I most likely probably agree with good old JD. So there's that too.
Well, here's my problem with JD Vance's comments, because in some cases maybe there shouldn't be people born on this planet, like blonde Wheezy, who sits there watching.
He's not saying that.
Well, I am. But like, you got blonde Wheezy staring at a screen going, ooh, ah. You know, I'm sorry. I got to attack people. That's all I can do here.
That's great.
I think I might as well.
Great.
Why not attack someone who's got 1 million fans? That should help us.
Here's a rare opportunity for you to educate me. You're always
Sure.
telling me I know everything about everything. So what is IVF? What is that?
It's an injection to help fertilize, like, the eggs to become more fertile. So basically, like, women who cannot have birth naturally, they take these shots that help them become more fertile. There's other ways too, right? They take the eggs and they manually inject them with the sperm and then put them back into the ladies. Hey, listen, medical science is fantastic, but unfortunately we're still attacking cats, and Blonde Wheezy is on YouTube with 1 million views.
We dragged cats into it, and
a Wheezy blonde, whatever it is.
Yeah, we dragged cats into it, so that's offense number one. But his statement was like a generalization kind of thing, and she returned fire with a very personal shot. So it's just like, and by the way, why is this? See, here's my biggest problem of all. Why is this a story? I don't give a shit. I really don't give a shit. And I'm amazed that people will actually ignore all the important subjects that really are at hand right now with a race, the real things that count. This is what you're concerned about?
Well, look, Jimmy, I get what you're saying, but I do have to say this. I think you have to respect half of society, or more than half. I think 65% of the world are women.
I agree.
Again,
Look,
Jimmy, we spoke about privileged white males, right? Shows back months ago, right? Again, we've never walked in the shoes of God knows. Look, I have a daughter, right? And God knows things that women have to go through that men, especially white men like ourselves, and I'm being honest here. I'm not, dude. Women got to take abuse on the workforce. They got to take abuse. Now, again, on the other hand, we see the power of women with the Me Too movement and some taking advantage of that situation, which is unfortunate also. So it does go both ways. But all I'm saying is, because a woman does not have a child, I don't really think they should be judged for that. Right?
If we're being serious, because obviously, I will answer seriously.
Yeah, I know you're right.
As far as this all goes, I'm still offended for my cats, but I will say this much: this is not something you say,
right?
And that is something that is concerning, because at the end of the day, I feel that President Trump just didn't know when to stop talking sometimes, and there are certain things you just don't say. And if you already know that the opponent, the enemy, the opposition is looking for the slightest thing, why the hell would you say something like that? So basically, not the smartest strategy, in my opinion, by JD.
Well, Jimmy, hopefully President Trump at the RNC had the opportunity to have a nice speech and be very short and sweet about it, and try to turn some of the people that are against them. But again, seems like the learning process is still a problem here because he went very long and very, sometimes things have to change, right? And, again, people attack each other, you say things about each other, but it comes a point maybe you should just stop. Anyway, we got a lot, so let's move on. Last night, dude, I got to tell you, AEW show last night, I don't know if you saw it. I'll ask you if you did. It was very, very good. I mean,
really?
Jimmy.
Okay.
Look.
Good.
Again, even a blind squirrel gets a nut once in a while. They got their nut last night. It was very, very good. But Corey Graves, I'm sorry, came out on social media, but eventually took it down. And this is what he wrote. This is not meant to sound judgmental or incite us versus them or question anybody's passion or talent or intentions. This is just coming from a guy whose career ended from a few too many accidental headshots.
Right.
The art of the business is protecting ourselves and each other. Trust me, the gaps in memory are not worth it, I promise. Graves' post came an hour after Dynamite ended. The show's main event, Blood and Guts, featured the AEW Elite versus AEW versus the Elite near the end of War Games inspired contest. Perry was handcuffed to the cage when he took a headshot to Mark Briscoe. I'm going to play that video for people out there. Pretty vicious shot, Jimmy. I know you can't see on your screen with the new setup, but I will tell you when you see it, you'll probably comment it on next week. It was vicious. Then it reminds me, and then I'm going to let you tell the story of Beyond the Mat when they show The Rock and Mankind in that I Quit match, which is probably one, if not the most brutal match in the history of wrestling, in my opinion.
Right.
Go ahead, Jimmy. And I'm going to play that video before you comment of The Rock pounding Mick Foley. Okay, so we got the video. So I kind of did a mixed video, but go ahead. Thoughts on my comment, and I will tell you, I'll go on record and saying I agree with Corey Graves. Right? It's like they got to stop with this shit. Right.
Well, I agree with Corey Graves too, but I've said it week after week, month after month, and now with 5 years into AEW, year after year, that fan base and the wrestlers performing for that fan base have no excuses down the road. And what I mean by that is that there was all these concussion worries and head trauma worries when Daniel Bryan was having his issues in WWE, and then he left. And he has basically proceeded during his AEW career to consistently cave his own skull in. He has nothing to complain about down the road. He asked for it. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Perry, wasn't he the one who wanted the real glass?
Yes, he was.
With the argument with Punk?
Yes, he was.
And Punk is soft because Punk wants gimmicked glass because he doesn't feel the need to destroy his body, especially at this age and stage of his career. And Perry is like, trying to demasculate him. No wonder he got socked in the mug, basically, and he's going to be upset down the road from the chair shot that he just took, which I will make sure to check out. No, you don't get to. I'm not going to fall for it because years ago, there was this big sympathy movement for Daniel Bryan, and Bryan Danielson kills himself. He is endangering his future years down the road, and he will not. I swear, if he comes back years from now, this is Vince's fault or my time and bullshit it is, I hate that they're doing this to themselves, but I'm not the one demanding it. The AEW audience much more so demands that they put themselves through this than the WWE product. Well, so
Jimmy,
you get what you pay for.
Jimmy, I talk with forked tongue though, because I just started off saying this is the best AEW show I had seen. I think I saw Dan Sebastiano on the chat from the Dan and Benny show. I think he said it was complete garbage. I don't know if I read that right. If it is, I think he said the whole AEW show was complete garbage, and there was an ending where Darby Allin pours gas on Perry and then makes the Elite quit, or he's going to light Perry on fire. I honestly, Jimmy, I thought the match was really good. I'm sorry. It's like, the head. Oh, he said just the match was garbage. I enjoyed it, but I also think that we spoke about Donald Trump changing his ways, President Trump.
Right.
When are we going to learn? You literally, Chris Benoit murdered his wife and child with the possible issues with CTE. It probably could be beyond that, which I think it was, but let's just leave it at that level. So what point are you going to stop this? And again, they're saying they're using gimmick chairs, blah, blah, blah. They could, again, those headshots are vicious. I don't care how else you slice it.
It runs even deeper than the objects, the implements of destruction, whether it's chairs or tables or whatever it is they're using to hammer each other with. This past weekend, it was an excellent match. Braun Breaker and Drago literally destroyed each other with forearm smashes and fists, and they were real, and kicks in the head and everything. You don't even need the chairs the way they're working. Those guys are both going to be brain dead 25 years from now. I watched Shibata over in Japan, and I love Shibata. And yes, he's been on AEW, not utilized correctly, but at this stage in his career, whatever. But I watched Shibata in his prime over in New Japan destroy. I love Shibata. Oh, my God. It's like a Japanese Clint Eastwood. I love him. But anyway, the poor guy had the forearm smashes over decades and decades of it. It just wrecked him. It's so physical, one way or the other. I don't want them. Can we get back to the art of? Look, we pounded the shit out of each other back in the day when we were kids, right? We threw some pretty convincing fists that looked really convincing without ever hurting each other. Where is that nowadays? Why does it have to be such a physical, bang, forearm smash? Can't you do this a little better? Dude,
I think things have happened in wrestling history that if you're an up and coming wrestler or you're just someone that wants a top spot, I mean, I'll just use someone that just comes to my head was Becky Lynch was a nobody until Nia Jax accidentally broke her nose, right? Now people are like, you know what? I got to get her. I got to get as close to the realism as possible to make it here. And I got to tell you, those guys killed themselves. And you know what? You brought up a great point. That Breaker match, that was top notch, and not 1 ounce of blood drawn, no chair shots. No ladder shots. It was straight out pounding, wrestling, dropping guys. So I agree with you. But I think they need to stop with the chairs to the head. Chairs to the back, okay. Chairs to the head, it's got to stop. I don't care if it's gimmicked. It's got to stop. Christ almighty, we just lost one of the Samoans. Do you remember when Albano broke I'm sorry, that was not a gimmick chair that he broke over, I think, off his head at that point against Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson. That that looked as if it was gimmicked, I'm an idiot. And I could be an idiot, but it looked real to me. Right.
Well, don't forget whose head was getting smashed through, too.
That is true. That is true.
If anybody was going to be able to take that particular spot, it was going to be one of the Samoans.
All right, one more news item before we get to the main event, the 25 greatest heels in pro wrestling history. So everybody understands, Mike Monty has made the list. Jimmy Farrow will comment on my list and tell me if I'm wrong or right. I think I put together a pretty solid list, but I'm looking forward to what everybody's got to say about this list, and especially what Jimmy's got to say. CM Punk is in the process of trying to get his WWE deal reconstructed from a money and years standpoint, according to Wrestling Purist. Punk is said to feel that he's provided everything and continues to go well. He never wants to work anywhere else, and has even been telling people he'll be with the WWE forever. Thoughts on Punk's total change of attitude here?
I feel like Uncle Howdy right now because if I could see CM Punk, I would go to Phil. There you are. That's exactly who I've been looking for. The whole time he was in AEW, I was so pissed off at him. I'm like, what are you doing at this stage of the game? You've got nothing to prove to anybody. Go home. Go to where everybody knew your name in the first place. Go back to where you belong. You're part of the Yankees. Go back to the Yankees. And he did go back to the Yankees. This is smart. At this stage of his career, he knows he's much more fragile. He gets to still be a main event player. He doesn't have to kill himself nearly as much, and he's going to be paid very well. Finally, there you are. Phil Brooks gets it. Mike, that's my take.
If you don't know it, you are watching Long Island's #1 pro wrestler broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh. Catch Monte The Pharaoh on the Monte The Pharaoh YouTube page and Monte The Pharaoh Facebook Live page. Hear us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor. Catch us on the Monte The Pharaoh Twitch TV page. And if you're lucky enough to live in New York, catch us on Channel 115 every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. and Saturday at 11:30 a.m. and Channel 20 on Tuesdays at 9 p.m., where over 150,000 people see us weekly. Jimmy, are you ready to go to the top heels of pro wrestling?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Look at this. Wow, you really did your homework, too. This is impressive.
I really want you to critique it the right way, as you always do.
Well,
you won't let me down.
It's gonna be hard, though. Please don't ask me to rearrange the numbers.
I'm not asking you to rearrange, but you can tell me, like, there's no way this guy should be on the list, or there's no way this guy should be this low. That's fine.
Okay.
Right? Or
fair enough.
There's no way this guy should be this high, like you usually do.
Right.
And you know what? And usually I agree with you. Not disagree. I agree with you. At number 25, I chose Ole Anderson. Now, before you comment, I just want to say I tried to choose wrestlers that were heels, but clearly they could have been faces at some point in their career too. But I tried to, number one, as a heel, did you find them entertaining? Number two, as a heel, did you hate their guts? You know,
impact.
That whole heel impact.
Yeah.
So number 25, Ole Anderson.
That's a great pick. He deserves to be on anybody's list. And Mike, we both know for a fact, because of all the couple of hundred guests we've had at this point over the years, no one is more universally despised. Forget about on screen. Off screen than Ole Anderson. Ole Anderson's one of the all-time pricks. He was great on screen. He was a real prick.
Yeah, I agree. And I hated Ole Anderson. There was never a point, even when the Four Horsemen turned on him and beat the crap out of him, I'm like, I hate that guy. Kill him. Kill him.
You know what I love about him, though? And it's one of the most endearing things that I look for in a heel. Not just the fact that you hate him and he's just irreversibly unlikable, you know? You knew he was tough. Or at least he sure as shit came off that way. You know what I'm saying? He really looked like a guy who would hop off an 18-wheeler and pound the fuck out of you for your big gulp. You know what I'm saying? You know? He definitely could be on anybody's top 25. He could be much higher depending on where you grew up and what programs you were watching.
Nice. Number 24. What a day, Joe Lowry. No, I'm sorry.
Dude, he doesn't deserve. Wait a minute, he doesn't deserve to be on this list. You actually have to be someone before you could be declared, anything. So no.
All right, how about Wheezy Blonde? Can we throw her on number 20?
Work. That doesn't work for me either, dude. Not at all.
Okay.
Not at
all.
All.
Serious note. Greg the Hammer Valentine, number 24.
All right. Well, how dare you put Greg Valentine this low? How dare you? Are you out of your mind? Like, I don't know where I would put him. I got to be honest, because you did all very impressive job here. There's 25 awesome names here. As I jot down some I already haven't seen, so I can complain later. Stand by. How is this guy not higher on this list? First of all, he broke my main man's leg. All right. First of all. All right. He went around with T-shirts. He was hated in every territory he ever came to. He left a string of mangled legs behind. Are you yawning during my Greg Valentine speech?
No, I'm sorry.
Did I catch that?
No.
How dare you? Unbelievable. You did that on purpose. You no good. Bro, I'm telling. All right. I totally agree he's on the list. I would have him much higher, but I am so partial to Greg the Hammer Valentine. What a great all-time villain.
Well, let's see, because the list is long. You could be like, hey, Greg should be above this guy. So here's number 23, the great Kabuki. That's a surprise entry for you, Jimmy. When I put it on the list, I'm like, Jimmy's going to be like, what what is this?
It is. I raised an eyebrow rock style when I saw that one. I was like, whoa, really?
Can I give you my reasons why before you answer?
Sure.
Reasons why he was always a heel, right? I think he came back as a baby face for like some bullshit. But anyway, I fucking hated that guy. Every time he was in the ring, I just hated him. I hated his face. I hated his green mist. I hated him. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Jimmy.
All right. You know what? Can I just throw in names if it reminds me of someone else who might have been a better selection?
Sure.
How's that sound? When I see Kabuki, I agree with you. What a great heel. He was a total prick and everything like that. But if you're gonna do the Kabuki thing, I actually think Yokozuna was a greater heel than the great Kabuki.
Fair enough.
That's I'll just mention that.
It's nothing like racial profiling by the Pharaoh in pro wrestling, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, if what do you want to wear a
I mean, why does Yokozuna have to be with Craig? Because they're supposed to. First of all, Yokozuna was Samoan, by the way, just so we make that clear.
Right. Well, Strombo was Italian. I mean, the fuck are we talking about here? No, but matter of fact, I had already written down Yokozuna's name. I have 3 other names I don't see because I was doing some speed reading.
Gotcha.
But Yokozuna, when I thought of Kabuki, hey, you know what? Hey, all you racially sensitive people, stand by, because now I'm thinking of Mr. Fuji. What do you think about that?
Well, that's a good point. Fuji, I can see Fuji being on the list.
I heard Cobra Kai was really good this season.
Oh,
is that
dude, Cobra Kai's rocking, dude. I was going to talk to you about that, man. Unbelievable. Yeah. And they ended after 5 shows, and you can't watch the November now. Unbelievably good.
Yeah, well, you know what, Mike? Try being a fan of Tulsa King. I'm sitting here and waiting and waiting.
Tulsa King is so good, man.
All
right, wait a minute. So Kabuki shouldn't be on the list, is what you're saying?
No. As a matter of fact, let me. You know what? I won't put Yokozuna there. What I will do is I will say this to you. Where is Larry Zbyszko?
Interesting. Maybe he's on the list, unless you want to give stuff away. I don't. You see, there you go. You and your pen. The pen.
I don't say. Well, you knew I would do this. Go ahead. Look at this. I got the pen.
All right.
Come on.
Number 22.
Yeah.
Tully Blanchard.
Yeah, he should definitely be on the list. You know, it's funny, when I brought this up earlier to Karen McDaniel, obviously, she was like, you better put Tully on there. So I'm glad that you have Tully down, because Tully's obviously one of the all-time greats as far as being a prick. Dude, did you like Tully Blanchard? I couldn't stand
Hated Tully Blanchard. Never liked him, ever. That guy was the typical heel that you hate. Like, guy, what a... Actually, you know what? Now I'm thinking about it. He should have maybe been higher, but I couldn't put him higher. Yeah, but you know what? I couldn't put him higher because you know what? He was always like a tag team champion.
That's true.
Or the United States champion, a TV champion. He never got the heavyweight title, so it was like, but boy, did I hate him. All right. This was a tough one because I wasn't sure if I should put him on considering how much people love him, but I guess I had to. The Iron Sheik at number 21.
Oh, he could be higher. I could see him being higher. That's one of the all-time great villains, and you probably won't even have anybody like that anymore. I mean, they wouldn't even dare do his gimmick today, probably, because you'd piss somebody off. It's very insensitive. You're stereotyping. The original Hakuga.
There you go, Hakuga.
Yeah, no, Iron Sheik could easily be higher on this list.
So right now, Kabuki is the only one that you think shouldn't be on the list, and you just think there could be some changes to the list in order.
Yes. I could easily swap him out for Larry Zbyszko or somebody like that, but I'll probably just read the names I was thinking of after we're done.
All right, sounds good. Number 20, the Chief Operating Officer for the WWE, Triple H.
Oh, easily one of the greatest villains of all time. I could see him being higher on the list. Listen, during the Attitude Era, sure, Undertaker's always been a consistent source, whatever. I totally get that. But the number one heel, the guy they went to every week, whether Austin was injured or whether The Rock was, getting ready to do movies or whatever was going to go on, there was one constant. That son of a bitch, Triple H, that nasty villain. And he was a nasty villain for years and years and years. World champion, just at the set. True. He had nepotism. You know what, though? He was great. Look, if he was a bad heel and wasn't doing his job well, Vince would have found someone else to do that. Okay, he was perfect at what he did. What a prick! Great
By the way,
villain.
Lou says Sheik should be in the top 10.
I can see that easily, Luce. Easily.
All right. Triple H okay at number 20, or you think he should be higher too?
He could be, but again, like this is a very massive, not easy undertaking you did here. So I don't have an issue really. This is your list, it's your opinion on it. Could I see Triple H being higher? Sure, I could.
Number 19, Ted DiBiase.
He could be higher. It goes to show how many great villains there have been in this business.
Right.
Look, the $1 Million Man is one of the greatest villains that ever existed.
In actuality, I think when we had them in studio, you might have even said he was in the top 5 greatest villains of all time. So, rethinking about this, 19 is kind of rough. And by the way, Benny Scholars thought that Gary Hart should have been a better choice than Kabuki, being that Gary Hart was his manager.
I actually agree with Benny on that one. Gary Hart was a great villain. I would think of him carrying more heel heat than Kabuki easily.
So I think I might have made a mistake with DiBiase, but my list stands. You're here to correct it. Number 18, Randy Orton.
I'm glad Randy is on the list because it would be, to me, historically ignorant to ignore. You see, every Batman needs a Joker. John Cena being the face obviously filled that Batman role, and Randy Orton was a delicious villain. What an absolute psycho. What a lunatic. What a great bad guy he was. He was the Joker to John's Batman for a generation. This wasn't something that went on for 3 weeks. It was for a generation. I loved when he was punting people's heads in, RKOing Stephanie McMahon, some of the crazy crap that Randy Orton did. And I'm so happy that Randy Orton gets the love and respect now from the fans. But I remember once upon a time when he was creating this incredible body of work early in his career and even into his prime of his career, where people were just down on him and he's this, he's that. He's fucking great. He's an Orton. He's everything that's right about the wrestling business. He's the consummate professional, too. He's a machine in the ring. If his style doesn't do it for you, that doesn't mean you have to put your blinders on and just hate on him. Randy Orton is a great worker and a great villain.
Higher on the list?
No, I'm okay with it. I'm just glad he was on your
eventually
list.
We can't have so many guys high on the list because once we go through
Right.
the list,
I agree. I agree. In this case, I'm glad he's on the list.
Right, gotcha.
You just made the list.
Well, speaking of that, number 17. The Ayatollah of rock and roller, Chris Jericho.
One of the greatest heels of his generation. Listen, Jericho's always been in my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time, and it's never been for when he's a good guy. Of course, I enjoyed the list and his stuff with Kevin Owens and stuff, but in general, I loved the bad guy, the arrogant Ayatollah of rock and roller, the ultimate wrestler in the ring and the ultimate promo guy. And he rocked. Chris Jericho reeked of everything cool, in a very, very egotistical, smirky kind of way. Jericho is great.
You know what's very interesting, dude? Foxy wrote out that Moolah should be on the list. And you know what? I'm going to call a foul on my end. I don't think I put one female on this list, which is a little surprising. Might have been another mistake by me. All right, number 16. People may not like this one, but the Fabulous Freebirds.
What's there to not like about that? They were the bad guys. They were the Darth Vader to the Von Erich's Luke Skywalker. What are you talking about? There's nothing wrong with that. The Fabulous Freebirds were absolutely hated. Try going through Texas with the Freebird color on.
Could you imagine, dude? Could you imagine?
No. The Freebirds were definitely one of the all-time great bad guys. You want to call them a faction now, fine, but they were a tag team that managed to function with 3. And they broke every rule, and they were despised. They were hated. You know how I feel about Michael Hayes. As the leader of those bad guys, with that David Lee Roth rock and roll look and everything that he had going on, the way he could talk, I saw a world champion in Michael Hayes.
I'm always amazed by your comment on that because I was a huge Michael Hayes guy too. But
he had everything.
And by the
Had
way,
everything.
you can go to our channel and you can go look at the documentary that we posted on the Freebirds. It's about 38 minutes or
Right.
so. It's really good, but there's a point where they're making the claim that Vince was going to take the belt from Hulk Hogan and give it to Michael Hayes, who
I
was going to
believe it.
turn on the Well, maybe he wasn't going to beat Hulk Hogan. Hogan was going to lose to somebody, and Michael Hayes was going to turn on the Freebirds and become a face, and he was going to be the head of Rock and Wrestling. He was actually, supposedly, supposed to bring Cyndi Lauper to the Grammy Awards, where Hogan stepped in his place, right, because they got fired.
Right. Look, I wouldn't want to change anything with history. It turned out to work exactly the way it should have for Vince and for the future of WrestleMania, et cetera, et cetera. But if there had been one guy without the ego, I'm sure personality came into this, without the over-the-top ego, that could, if he could have stuck to business, that one guy who could have done that rock and roll thing. Look, Shawn Michaels isn't around yet. Is Michael Hayes in the early
but you know,
80s.
here's the thing. Nothing against Hayes because I loved him, but he was not a good wrestler, dude. He was less than serviceable, though. Less than serviceable.
I think that he could have been serviceable because if he was less than serviceable, people would have not invested that heavily into the Von Erich Freebird program. So he was serviceable. I think that he was always serviceable. I didn't think he was a poor worker. You know, he wasn't obviously a Dynamite Kid or Tiger Mask or whatever, but look, his job was to put on a show. You know, girls would piss themselves when he came out there, right? You know that, right?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They would literally piss themselves. When you have girls out there completely like fainting over somebody, you know, when I look at Michael Hayes, I think of Jeff Hardy. And I just think wrong place, wrong time. Because if Michael Hayes had come up years later, you know, and been able to get over with what he was doing, he could have easily been not a Jeff Hardy in the ring, but a Jeff Hardy accepted kind of world champion, if that makes any kind of sense. And I'm not sure it does, but, you know, he wasn't the biggest guy, but he had the charisma and the girls loved him. And those kind of things can usually take you a very long way if you're in the business of entertainment.
Good stuff. All right, we're into the 15, man. We're halfway home. This is a list.
Right.
So far, Pharaoh says Kabuki should not be on this list. He agrees with everybody else, but he thinks they could be in a different place. But he's kind of settled in with the Freebirds being where they are and Randy Orton being where they are. So maybe we're coming a little closer. Number 15, the Macho Man, Randy Savage.
Macho Man, when he was a heel, was one of the greatest heels that ever lived. I think he could go higher on this list. The I Hate You Hulk Hogan is still my favorite promo. I go back to it all the time. I can't get enough of it.
Right.
I love when he's evil.
Oh yeah.
You know, when he turned on Hogan, oh my God, that is some of his greatest work ever. He was just a tremendous everything.
You know,
not too many guys on this list.
I got to ask you about this because you brought up Cobra Kai, right? And you've seen all the Karate Kids, right?
No.
You saw the first one?
No, I haven't.
How about the first one?
I saw the first one, and then I got to see, I would like to say, the first or possibly even the second season of Cobra Kai, and then life got in the way, and I've never returned.
Okay, but you understand the concept of Cobra Kai, right? It's after Karate Kid. It's two people.
Sure.
There's two people living, right, their lives afterwards, right? And it's Daniel LaRusso, who's played by Ralph Macchio, right? And who's the other guy? Fuck, who's the blonde head kid?
He's the blonde kid who was the bad guy in the original movie.
Okay, so and if anyone could give me the name, because again I'm old and I keep forgetting. Here's my question.
Yeah.
And this is the parlay into Hogan Macho Man.
Yeah.
Devil's advocate. Daniel LaRusso comes to California. He meets a girl. Good-looking girl. Johnny. Thank you, Gerard. Johnny's girl, who they break up. So Johnny's obviously upset, right? He lost his hot girl, and now she's hanging out with LaRusso. So he comes to the beach to talk to her, and what does Daniel LaRusso tries to embarrass him and tell him to get away from her? Big tough guy. So Johnny beats the shit out of him. Okay? End the thing, right? Then they're done. But the kid doesn't stop. He just keeps coming for more Macho, fucking Danny LaRusso, because he's a stupid kid from Jersey. And every time, they're at a Halloween party, Johnny's rolling some dubs. You could appreciate that. And what does LaRusso do? He takes a hose and he pours water all over Johnny, ruining all his weed. Now, you'd be angry too. So they chase him down, and Johnny beats the shit out of him.
Right.
Then Johnny.
Good.
Right? Then Johnny is in the All Valley tournament, and this fucking kid beats him and takes his title away. Who's really wrong? And now let's go back. You mentioned Macho Man turning on Hogan. Let's think about this again. And I know people have discussed this, but Hogan puts his hand on Elizabeth's ass. Hogan all of a sudden's carrying Elizabeth all over the place. Hogan's doing this. Yeah, Macho Man has a little bit of a right to get a little pissed off here. Why is he the heel in this whole situation? And we're Hogan guys, I get it, but Hogan was doing him a little bit dirty, wasn't he?
Because he turned on say your prayers and take your vitamins. How dare you question the Hulkster? What the hell's wrong with you?
Wow.
He only had his hand on her ass because he had lifted her up to put her on his shoulders. We won, everybody. Wow, you really twisted this. Hulkster didn't do nothing
Elizabeth
wrong,
got hit by Macho Man. Hogan leaves Macho Man to get beat up by the Twin Towers, right? Akeem and Big Boss Man. Has to carry Elizabeth back. Meanwhile, grabbing some titty, walking down. We all saw that too. And Macho Man is the bad guy.
All you're telling me is this Hogan is a genius.
Wow.
That's all I'm getting out of this.
You're just
He's
wrong.
A genius.
You're
Listen,
wrong.
I'm not going to change how I rooted for that program. You're not doing that to me.
You're wrong.
Nope.
You're wrong in so many ways.
Probably.
All right, number 14, Mr. Perfect.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah, I can't argue that he could be higher or lower, but I'm glad he's here. He should be here. Mr. Perfect was fantastic. He was one of the best. Who the hell's better than Mr. Perfect, really, when you think about it?
Dude.
Nobody.
How perfect was perfect?
He was perfect.
He was perfect.
I still think back when he flipped the basketball over his head.
Oh, my God. How about when he caught his own 100-yard pass? How about when he hit like 20 strikes in a perfect 200 game? The 300 game. The guy was incredible. He was perfect.
He caught his own 100-yard pass. And they looked at that thing. Oh, man. He was so great. God damn it.
I'm interested in this one, what you're going to think about
fucking
this.
Drugs, man. It gets you every time. Go ahead.
All right. This one's going to – I feel very confident in this pick. I want to hear what you got to say. Number 13, The Miz.
Okay, now, let's go back. Now, I don't have an issue with Miz being on the list, by the way. Miz is a great pain in the ass, and everybody hates Miz. So he's definitely naturally hateable. I got no problem with that. But you're going to tell me that you put Miz at 13 and Greg Valentine at 24? Now, I know you like good fucking wine, but apparently you like good fucking wine a lot more than I thought you did. The Miz a greater heel than Triple H, the Iron Sheik, Tully Blanchard, Randy Orton, Chris Jericho? No. The Miz winds up going to the back of this list. But that's the only, and you know what, Mike? You got to give me some credit here. I haven't found anything else that I'm
your comment is fair when you look at it by the way you're approaching it. You know what? You could be right. I gotta ask you one other question now. Dan Sebastiano wrote, if Mr. Perfect had played by Terry Taylor as originally planned, how would it have turned out? So here's my scenario here.
Terrible.
Number one, and I might be the only one that ever says this, I loved the Red Rooster. Okay? I did. I loved the Red Rooster.
Why?
He was fucking awesome, dude. It was awesome. It was awesome. It was awesome. I think Terry Taylor could have been a good Mr. Perfect. Could he have been the perfect? No. That was for Kurt Hennig. But I believe if history had written it himself, he would have been a good Mr. Perfect character. On the other hand, could Kurt Hennig have been the Red Rooster?
No, and neither one could be either. Terry Taylor's promos would have absolutely been Limp Bizkits. No way.
All right, you're right. You're right.
No.
All right.
No.
Number 12, Gino Hernandez.
Oh, what a great bad guy. Oh, my God. And we barely got to get a glimpse of him. I could see why he would be on the list. I don't know where I would put him. I mean, like, if you grew up in those days in that territory, my God, he's probably in your top 5.
He falls into, like, I hate your guts no matter what, always will hate your guts.
Absolutely. You want to reach through the screen and choke him.
I want to, it's because we're on limited time here, right? I want to get
Yeah.
through the list
Yeah.
a little faster so we
Okay.
can get to you and your final comments because that's probably the most important part. This I'll take a beating for. This was a tough one. I was really having a lot of trouble with this dude. He moved from like number 4 to number 8, and I couldn't figure it out, and I finally just put him in the slot. Number 11, Paul Heyman.
He could be higher. I could see him being higher. He's definitely makes the list, obviously. Paul Heyman, come on, man. He's been the voice of the most evil, crusher in the last 20 years, Brock Lesnar. He's the best at what he does. Nobody's done better than him at his spot.
That was the most difficulty I had, Jimmy. I could not because when we get to the list, you go, oh man, okay, number 10, and I felt he had to be on the list and he had to be high. Abdullah the Butcher.
Hard to argue with Abdullah being in anybody's top 10. Abdullah was he was a global terror. His job was just to come into town, start a bloodbath, possibly start a riot, which sometimes would happen, especially in Puerto Rico, and leave, and then rinse, wash, and repeat. Well, I mean, we got to have Abdullah on several times in person, so we know Abdullah fairly well, all things considered. And to gaze upon his forehead in person, Mike, how would you describe to be looking at Abdullah the Butcher's forehead?
Crazy.
I mean,
crazy as advertised.
Yep.
As advertised.
He deserves it. He deserves it one way or the other. He deserves to be up there.
This man has to be in the top 10 considering that he defeated Bruno Sammartino, Ivan Koloff.
Oh, no doubt. The prototype is there a Iron Sheik years later without Ivan Koloff? Is there a Sergeant Slaughter years later without Ivan Koloff? Is there, Ivan Koloff was the prototype for the enemy is overseas and the enemy is now here. Back when we were probably less sensitive about our country's differences and our borders and everything else and our backgrounds and the color of us and all this other shit. Ivan Koloff was your prototypical I hate the Russians and I hate America because I'm a Russian and I hate all of you. You almost die.
Excellent.
Wow.
Excellent comment.
Fucking great. Great.
This was tough. This is the guy I was going back and forth with Heyman, and I finally decided that people love Heyman too much for him to be above this guy. Number 8, Captain Lou Albano.
I can see why you had that problem. Captain Lou was one of those rare ones, though, who was able to. People always forget what a beloved face he became, right?
Yeah, he did. He did.
He did. He was able to do that. Captain Lou Albano was so hated, man. Do you remember, Mike, in the early days when I first turned you on to wrestling in the early 80s? Once in a blue moon, Albano would actually wrestle, and the opponent would get their hands on him.
Yep.
Do you remember the Garden crowd
They
when
loved
Tony
it, man.
Gurrier
Oh my God!
or Rick Martel fired a straight right to Lou Albano's forehead? The place went wild. Anything to see Lou Albano beat up. What a great villain. Oh, my God. Clearly top 10 material.
Oh, and by the way, Dan Sebastiano says, did you know that Benny Scala thinks Ivan Koloff should be in the Hall of Fame?
There we go.
You know what?
Done,
in this podcasting world, there's certain lines you'll never forget, and that's one of them. I don't know how many times Benny Scala will say Ivan Koloff should be in the Hall of Fame.
You know what? And to defend Benny, I don't know how many times he has to say it, but he's going to be right about that every single time.
There's two lines that always stick in my head, right? It's Benny Scala, Ivan Koloff should be in the Hall of Fame, and the other line is Evan Ginsberg, my father made $25,000 a year. Those are the two lines that are always repeated. And then there's Blonde Wheezy, who just says nothing.
Right. Well, Evan Ginsberg just texted me. Hold on a second. It says, "You motherfucker, where's John Tolos?" Ran.
Oh, there you go. Well, maybe it is. Number 7. No, it's not John Tolos. It's Andre the Giant.
Very, very happy he's here and he's ranked up high. Andre the Giant, obviously, and another guy who was able to be a beloved face, but also, you know what? To sum up Andre the Giant's effectiveness as a heel, Mike, I always think back on WrestleMania 3. Remember the carts that they took them out to the ring in? They were riding the carts at WrestleMania 3 to get to the ring. They were on carts.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I will never forget the amount of garbage thrown at Andre the Giant when he was getting ready to fight Hulk Hogan and on the way out, too. Oh, my God, was he despised. So despised. Let me ask you this. Without Andre the Giant, how effective is the Heenan family without having Andre the Giant? I mean, it was going to be great one way or the other, but you realize what having Andre the Giant in that stable did for that family.
Oh,
and how seriously you took them.
Absolutely, dude. And again, don't forget, he sold out the Pontiac Silverdome. So, I mean, that alone. And by the way, R.J. Hubson says, I guess Hannibal's not on the list. No. Hannibal's dying a slow death, if anyone doesn't realize it. He's struggling out there. Number 6, the manager of Andre the Giant, the Heenan family you just mentioned, Bobby Heenan, number 6.
Yep. The probably the greatest of all the despised managers. I mean, Bobby Heenan. You know, it's weird though. Bobby was really special because as much as you hated him, you still laughed at his jokes. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
weird.
I hated the guy.
Right.
I hated the guy, but there was something about him that just cracked me up. He drew real true heat. You know, it's funny, Mike, and I know he would never be on your list, but when I think of Bobby Heenan, I can't help but think of Nick Bockwinkel, an absolute asshole. An absolute asshole.
Yeah, that dude's not making. That guy's not making any of my list, bro.
No. I'm not saying he would be on this list, but I do think of those days when Heenan was managing Bockwinkel. Heenan was really hated, bro.
Listen,
big time.
Listen, Bullwinkle would make my list before Bockwinkel makes my list. All right, let's be honest.
I can see Heenan now. My new member of the family. Bullwinkle. Hey, Bobby.
That's hilarious.
Hey, Bobby. When
hey, Bobby.
Go eat some turnbuckles. Again?
And then there's Benny Scala. I think Bullwinkle should be in the Hall of Fame.
Bullwinkle should be in the Hall of Fame. Nothing in my shorts. Again?
Number 5, superstar Billy Graham. I think you're digging my top 10, though. You don't seem to have too much of a problem with the top 10.
Dude, actually, I like your whole list outside of maybe one or two things. I mean, I like your list. Your list is good. Superstar Graham. Oh, yeah. Because you're talking about a guy who not only was the prototype for future looks like Hulk Hogan and stuff like that, but this was a guy who got to be a heel champion for back in those days. That's a considerable amount of time. He's very, very important to the heel's role in the history of this sport, one way or the other. The ultimate promo guy. You know, they said he could have done it without the Wizard, and I agree that he could have. I'm glad the Wizard was there, though. But Superstar was such a great heel worker on the mic, he didn't need the Wizard, oddly enough. But you're talking about one of the greatest talkers, one of the great. By the way, nobody sold a beating better than Superstar Graham. I stand by that.
Right.
Oh, did he sell getting
Jimmy,
walloped?
The pressure is on. Yeah. We've got 3 minutes. I'm running out of time.
Okay, go ahead.
Number 4, Kevin Sullivan.
Oh, absolutely. He's fucking great. And
I like that. Number 3,
fucking great.
Shawn Michaels.
I'm about that. You know, I think he's a great heel. Don't get me wrong. He should be somewhere on the list, but I'm not so sure he should be this high because I still want to get to my few names. So let's go.
You got it. Number 2, Roddy Piper.
He's perfectly ranked only because of the one individual ahead of him historically.
Well, you might as well just say the name then, bro, because you got it.
Well, the greatest heel in the history of this business, and the cash register says so too, was Mr. McMahon. And Mr. McMahon is the greatest heel of all time. My God, the millions of people who
with all this, what killed
dead.
WCW? If Mr. McMahon never comes out, does the WWE survive that war?
Probably not. And wasn't it Bischoff himself who said if there was anybody he would have taken to steal for Nitro, it would have been Mr. McMahon?
Absolutely. And by the way, people are mentioning Hollywood Hulk Hogan. I think me and Jimmy totally agree.
He should be on the list.
But you know what? The list is tough. All right, Jimmy, hit me with who you thought. What's going on here?
All right, the names that I didn't see, and I'll slap them out quickly. Jim Cornette has to be on this list. Somewhere on this list, Jim Cornette must exist.
Who goes? All right, I'm challenging you. Cornette's on. Who goes?
All right, let's take Kabuki off.
All right, next.
Larry Zbyszko.
Who goes?
The Miz.
Wow. Okay, next.
Bye-bye. Stan Hansen.
Who goes?
That's a good one. Give me a second. Gino Hernandez. over
Okay.
Stan Hansen.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, Stan Hansen over Gino Hernandez.
Very good.
Jimmy Hart.
Jimmy Hart. Who goes?
Ooh,
You're running out of guys to pull, man.
that might be that might be a problem. That might be a problem. I'm almost done. Wow. I'm not doing it. I'm done. I'm good. See, so I came up
Who
with
else
3.
is on your list that's missing?
Well, I mentioned Yokozuna. Hollywood Hogan has to be on this list.
That was
Matter
a
of fact, he'd
mistake
be-
by me. He should have been on there. Yeah.
He would be in my top 10.
He should have been over
just-
Kabuki. That would have been the switch for me.
Yeah, he is one of the greatest villains of all time and one of the greatest faces of all time. Too bad if you don't like it. That's the way it happens. Nope, that's it. We're good. That's it.
With that, I want to
Great job.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank the great PN News, Paul New, for joining us in the Mike Halleck tribute. Mike, if you could hear me up there, and I know you can, and you could hear Jimmy, we do miss you. We always considered you a friend. I mean, to this day, your passing has hurt. And I'll quote the great Keanu Reeves when he was asked the question, do you know what happens when people die? I guess challenging if there's a heaven or not. But Keanu Reeves' answer was, the one thing for sure is the people that love you will miss you. Jimmy, you want to send us out?
You've been watching Monte and the Pharaoh. And until next week, thanks for tuning in, folks. Later.